Pavy Daily Hottakes back again. As you guys know, sure you guys know if you listen to this, you watch basketball, so I'm sure you know the NBA draft was yesterday. First off about the draft, what I do want to say is, man, I love the NBA as far as like I think the NBA probably does the best job of marketing itself out of any professional league currently. Like the draft as like just the event was a great event. Like I think that this probably was, as far as just like not just the talent in the draft, but I think this was probably one of the best drafts I've ever seen. Like I actually genuinely enjoyed watching the draft. Like I watched all I think it was like 5 hours. I watched all 5 hours of it. We got great moments. I mean, we got probably some of the best moments, that, especially the top 3 picks. I mean, with RJ, his dad saying, I'm proud of you, son. Even Zion, crying the way he cried, hugging his mom, being overcome with emotion. Even Ja. I mean, I think we just got even the Kobe White moment. When he found out that Cam Johnson got drafted. I just think we got so many great moments throughout this draft. And I mean, you got stuff that's memeable. I mean, look, they gonna probably meme Zion crying. Well, like people already have memes Zion crying, And I just think that, I mean, even after when they was doing the media availability, where RJ was like, yo, shout out the girl in like the pink dress, or shout out like, yo, I can't believe that I'm a Knick. It's just felt like, as far as just like a spectacle of television, we got one of the best drafts that we've ever had. Just as literally, just as far as, I'm not talking about talent wise, we won't know. Personally, I think this was a very, very deep draft. Some people said it was like a 3-player draft. I disagree. I think that there were like 3, clear-cut like top guys. But then I think that, I mean, you even go all the way down to like the second round. I think it's some talent in there. I think that when we talk about who had a good draft and who had a bad draft, looking at it, I can't really see anybody off top who I think had a bad draft. I mean, first of all, I just think that the skill level of these kids now is just so greater than what it was 10, 15 years ago. Most of these kids grow up with trainers. Most of these kids are already media trained. I mean, like, you can see, like, they're great with the media at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, as opposed to 10, 15 years ago. Like, you had to get media trained when you got into the league. But I just feel like the way that, because, from like the time you're 9, 8, 9, 10 years old now, like, they single you out to play one sport. Back in the day, like I remember even back in like when like I was in high school, you couldn't even play basketball unless you played football. And then if you played basketball, you had to play a track sport. So they were like not a track sport, but a spring sport. So they made you like 3-sport athletes. But when you do that, it takes time away, from you just honing in and focusing on one sport and just training for that. I feel like most of these athletes probably again have had. I mean, even when I talked to Marina Marbury, shout out to LA Sparks, and I was talking about the difference between East Coast and West Coast hoopers, and she was like, yeah, most people out west have trainers, and most people out east you just kind of grew up playing outside. But even still, like I mean, if you look at where most of these people come from, like I still think they grew up, playing mad basketball, working with trainers, even if it's like training outside, like you saw in your house. Like you saw the video of Ja Morant last night, literally just where they put it up on the during the draft. He was training with his dad, like full on workout, like running around cones, dribbling around cones in the backyard, had the man jumping through tires. So I think that the way that we train these kids now, even in the women's game as well, I think just the way we train basketball is just so much better than what it was 15, 20 years ago. So I think all these kids come in probably even more skilled than what people came in 15, 20 years ago. Now, you can argue about talent, you can argue about athleticism, things like that, like whatever. But as far as actual skill level, I think all of these kids are very well developed beyond what prospects were 10, 15 years ago. So I don't think you'll get any more drafts, like you got in like 2000, where it was a really bad draft. I think we got I think 6 total All-Stars combined from that draft. Like, I don't think you'll see any more drafts like that. I think that every year the talent pool gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. For one, I mean, basketball is more global, so you're not just competing against, New York, or you're not just competing against prospects in LA or prospects in America. You're competing against everywhere. Like, I mean, RJ is from Canada. Like, Canada, I think, had 3 first-round picks this year, 3 or 4 first rounds. Canada, I mean, you always had Europe. Australia's producing great prospects. Like, basketball is a very, very globalized sport now. I mean, the basketball beyond borders. Like, I think Pascal came out of that program. I think that the guy Detroit drafted, I cannot pronounce his name, but I'm gonna try. Siu Dukembiu. I know that's not how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry, bro. Like, I cannot pronounce your name at this moment. But I mean, I think he's from Africa and went through like the basketball beyond borders program. But again, so I just think that the way we teach in the game around the world is just so much better than what it was 15, 20 years ago. So I don't think that you'll see any of those drafts where, you don't have talent coming in. Like, I think the draft gets actually better every year. You see, like, I think that, like, phenoms are happening, like, more often. Like, you got Zion, but then you also have had Melo. Like, Melo's going to be in the league next year, Like, that's crazy. Like, we've seen this guy since he was, probably 13 years old on the internet. He's going to be in the league next year. I mean, RJ, you've seen RJ for, 2 years. And Cam, I mean, even Cam, you've seen Cam for like, 2-3 years. Like, there's so much footage on these guys since the time that they're damn near in like 8th grade. So, even like you're seeing more and more and more phenoms, and just as the years progress, as media even gets bigger and you have more media outlets like myself, like I feel like we contribute to this space as well. Like the NBA, again, just does a very amazing job of marketing themselves, and they understand that as much media and as much publicity, as many conversations you can drive around the game as possible, the better it is. Like, I remember when basketball legit ended. Like, 15 years ago, there was actually an off season. Like, basketball ended. Like, once the finals were decided, I mean, you had the draft, but Summer League wasn't as prevalent. Like, Summer League wasn't the thing that it is now. Summer League is bigger every year. Like, Zion's going to be at Summer League. Like, that's going to be the craziest. That Summer League might sell out for Zion. It really might. That's going to be the craziest ticket in Vegas. I mean, like, what if Zion and RJ's team plays each other? You're not going to tell me that arena isn't going to be packed? Like, Summer League, I don't even remember LeBron James going to Summer League. I don't even remember seeing LeBron James at Summer League. The first Summer League highlights that I really remember paying attention to were, like, Greg Oden. I remember Greg Oden fouled out, and I think his first Summer League game, which people was like, it's red flag. He fouled out in his 10 fouls. But, so again, I think that just, there's no offseason now. And then, Summer League, well, there's free agency before that. Then Summer League. I remember last year, like, LeBron comes to Summer League with Lakers shorts after he just signed with the Lakers. It's like, yo, LeBron is at Summer League. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's literally, and then you got USA basketball. Like, there's no basketball offseason now. It's literally 365 days a year. So before I get into, actually, talking about and breaking down the draft, I just want to give a shout out to the NBA for the way that they market themselves. Hell of a job. Again, I thought the NBA draft was probably the best spectacle that I've seen thus far. As far as just watching a TV event, I think it was probably the best draft that I've seen. But moving on to the draft, I want to talk about winners and losers. Again, I don't really have any real losers for you guys. I think that everybody did a great job. I mean, like, look, I want to start off with Phoenix, right? So everybody's saying, oh, Phoenix did a terrible job. I don't know who's running Phoenix. I actually might be in the minority, but I like what Phoenix did on draft night. Like, I like it. I think that trading down was a great move. For one, you pick up Dario Saric, who I think is a very, very quality four-man. I mean, I'm pulling up the trades that they had. I can see them. Okay, yeah, I think that Devin Booker is again a very, very quality big man. Not Devin Booker, tweaking. I think that Dario Saric is a very, very quality big man. So I love the acquisition of. It's not like they just traded down to 11. They also traded down to 11 and picked up Dario. I didn't think that for the Suns. Culver. I mean, you could pick Kobe White, you could pick Culver, but I remember I used to get into discussions with the Suns fan all the time, and they would say actually the lineups when Devin Booker are running point guard actually produce really well. So I mean, look, if you're comfortable with what Devin is doing at point guard, then just leave him at point guard. I mean, look, it takes a while to learn the point guard position. This year was his first year playing point guard, so I think that. Next year you come back, you've done it before, you come back improved, you come back better, and you're more used to the position. Or, you've heard the D-Lo rumblings. If you can bring in D-Lo, I would love that move as well. But either way, I think for the Suns, it's about getting length, getting athleticism, and being able to defend, right? So I looked at, everybody was shocked that Cam Johnson, went as high as he did in the draft. So I stayed up to about, I want to say 4 a.m. last night, literally just watching prospects highlights. I didn't watch any full games. So again, granted, this is just me watching highlights. I'm not the biggest college basketball fan at this age. I think that college basketball is just a very amateur sport, and it's not always the most visually appealing for me to watch. But that being said, I did check out at least 20 minutes of footage on Cam Johnson, and I really like Cam Johnson. I don't know what everybody's complaining about the Cam Johnson pick for. For one, he's an older player. He's 23. He's been in college 5 years, so he's been coached up. So it's not like you're getting a guy who you're gonna have to develop. You're getting a guy who basically, for instance, No Chill Gill always says on Gill Arenas, the draft is not based on skill. It's based on potential, right? But if you look at skill level and just who's the most developed prospect, Cam Johnson has been in college for 5 years. So he knows how to play in the system. He knows how to play offense. He knows how to play defense. He seems very polished. He has great size. He's 6'8", I think 225 if I'm not mistaken. He can pass the ball. He's the best shooter in the draft. Shooting is at a premium right now, especially for Phoenix. You need shooters around Devin. You also need shooters around Ayton, because if you want to have it where if I dump the ball down to Ayton in the post and they double off Ayton, we got Cam out there. You also can't leave Booker. Dario can knock one down. Dario can also facilitate at the 4 spot. You also have Mikal Bridges. He's a decent shooter. If I'm not mistaken, I looked it up last night. Cam Johnson shot 45% from the 3-point line and 53% from 3 in college last year. And judging off the way Kobe White talked about him and was as happy for him when he got drafted, it seems like Cam Johnson is a really, really hard worker. That's what it seems like. It seems like he's a guy who he has the size to compete, but he probably worked himself into being a lottery pick. So I really, really like the Cam Johnson acquisition. They got rid of TJ Warren, which is something that I think that they needed to do. I don't think TJ best fit what they were trying to do. I think that, again, that's too many people taking shots. I mean, TJ is a guy who can get you 18, 19, 20 points a game, but I need Aiden to get more shots. I need Booker to get more shots. I need those guys to be like the new Shaq and Kobe, so I don't really need somebody else who's coming in taking, 13 shots, 14 shots a game. I don't need that. So I like Cam Johnson for what they're doing. I think that he can kind of be like what they wanted Josh Jackson to be. I think that you can also run some offense through Cam Johnson. He seems to be really, really good in transition. Again, he seems to I saw a couple plays when he would get out in transition and make great bounce passes. You can fuck up those bounce passes and they can get stolen, and that can be a run out the other way. He seems to make great bounce passes. He seems smart. Again, he's, I think, 5-year player, so I think he probably redshirted, got his degree. So he seems smart. He seems seasoned. He's a guy that you don't have to develop. I think also with the Suns, you're tired of development players. You just put that money on Booker. You gave him, $160 million. I think that, you've been out the playoffs 10, 11, 12 years now. You don't really want to bring in any more, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who you have to still develop. I also like the acquisition of Aaron Baines. I hope they keep Aaron Baines. I like I like the acquisition of having just some veterans there. I mean, like, I like Rashard Holmes. I think he's dope. I think he's a good young player, but I would rather have a veteran backup for Aiden. It also gives me some physicality. Again, you pick up Sarich, and I think what you have, what you get, you got rid of T.J. Warren's contract. I think you have like $40 million or $30 million in cap space now. Like, yo, I like the day Phoenix had. I think Phoenix had a really, really good day. Again, don't be surprised if Cam Johnson comes out and makes an immediate impact. Again, the thing you see about these, 3-4 year guys is they don't need as much time to develop. Like, even Hart, when Hart got drafted, he came in and made an immediate impact. It wasn't like you had to wait to see what Josh Hart did. No, Josh Hart came out and hooped right away. Like, you knew who Josh Hart was within the first 30 games of the season. Josh Hart was making an impact. I think that, not granted, I mean, Josh Hart wasn't a lottery pick. Cam Johnson is like a lottery pick, but he's a guy that I think could come in and realistically start next year for the Phoenix Suns at the small forward position. I mean, like, look, they signed Trevor Ariza, but I don't think Ariza wanted to be there. I think he just wanted to just get the most money, and like, I think that what they offered, like $15 million for 1 year. I just think he just want to take the bag, and like, I feel him. But I think that Cam Johnson can be what they thought Ariza was gonna be. Like, sometimes I think that what teams do is, like, they'll sign a guy or they'll get a guy that they know, isn't gonna be around longer. You just want to, like, test out your future. For instance, like Cleveland. I love what Cleveland did. Some people think, oh, why did you pick another point guard? Because look, if you watch Cleveland last year, one thing that they did do is they would run out Colin Sexton and Brandon Knight. I don't think that Colin Sexton is the best point guard. He played. If you watch HoopsNBrews, you heard me complain about it all year, all year. I think he got better towards the end with his decision making, but I mean, he's still only giving you like 3 assists. Colin Sexton is more of a guy who you can use as a 2 guard as well. Like, yo, you go out there and get buckets and pass sometimes. Garland is a better shooter. Like, Garland is a better shooter than what Sexton is, but I think Sexton is probably better getting to the paint. But also, Sexton showed he can really shoot the ball. Like, I think Sexton was shooting like 40% from 3 after the All-Star break. So I think that, like, look, I think that they have some semblance of what Portland has. Again, they ran out Brandon Knight and Colin Sexton last year. I really like what they did. I think they were just testing out what they wanted, like what they wanted their future to look like, which is why if you heard my past daily hot takes earlier in this season, I was suggesting that they draft John Morant and you just pair both of them in the backcourt together. Also, they had lineups in which they ran Cedi Osman at the 4. So I love getting Kevin Porter Jr. at the end of the first round, who I personally think I personally think Kevin Porter is a lottery type talent that slipped all the way down to the end of the first round. Like, if he didn't have people had he got hurt in college. They also he got suspended. He had questions about his attitude, but he's a young player. But, I mean, if he can just keep his head on straight, I think that Cleveland got an absolute steal. I can't say I know much about Dylan Wilder, but I'm focusing on Kevin Porter and Darius Garland. Like, look, I think that sometimes next year you may see a combination of depending on what they want to do with Love. I personally think you keep Love. I think Kevin Love wants to be there. I think that at this point he's like a legacy player for Cleveland. He's a guy that's probably going to get his jersey retired there at some point. I don't know how they're going to play defense, but I think that for them, you want to get out and you want to run. If you got Kevin Love there, who's one of the best rebounders in the league, one of the best outlet passers in the league, and you got Garland, you got Sexton, you got Kevin Porter, you got Cedi, who actually is a really good. I think that later on in the year, they started running some of the plays for Cedi that they would have ran for LeBron the prior year. Not saying that he's LeBron, but he has some LeBron-like qualities, whereas he can be a point forward. You can run offense through Cedi. You can also run offense through him in the post. His post, he started posting up a little bit more near the end of the season. So I think that at times you'll see lineups like of Sexton, Garland, Kevin Porter, Cedi at the 4, Tristan at the 5, or Love at the 5, or, I mean, they still do have John Henson. I mean, you might look to move John Henson. I don't know. You might look to move Tristan Thompson. I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do with Kevin Love. I mean, you heard a couple teams are interested in Kevin Love, but again, I would like to see them keep Kevin Love, but I think Cleveland had an amazing day. I think that the Pelicans, look, man, the Pelicans, David Griffin is a genius. David Griffin should be applauded. David Griffin came in and in literally 1 month turned his whole team's entire franchise around. Like, this is the haul, basically, that they got back for Anthony Davis. They got Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Jackson Hayes, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They got the number 35th pick returning to Marcos Louis Silva. Then they got a protected first from the Cavs next year via the Hawks, which will probably, I think it's lottery protected. Cavs, might be top 10 protected. The Cavs will probably still be in the top 10 next year, so it'll probably convey the following year. But regardless, that's going to be a decent pick, a mid-first round pick or a lottery pick at some point in time. Then you have an unprotected first from the Lakers in 2021. Then you have a unprotected pick swapped with the Lakers. Then you have a 2024 unprotected pick from the Lakers with rights to defer to 2025. And you got rid of Solomon Hill, who had a huge, terrible contract. I think the Dale Demps giving that contract when he gave Omer Sheik all that money as well. Like, David Griffin has come in and literally in fucking 1 month, switch this whole team's franchise completely around. Like, look, I think realistically, I was watching some Jackson Hayes highlights. To me, he's like I think they said it on draft day when they did his draft comparison. They said Tyson Chandler. I think that's a very accurate comparison for Jackson Hayes. I mean, he seems like he's great with help defense. He's got a 7'3" wingspan. I think his vertical was like 34 inches. So that's great, amazing size for like a 6'11", 7-foot center. I realistically think the Pelicans have a chance to be the best defensive basketball team ever, or one of the best defensive teams ever. Like, just look at their starting lineup, right? Lonzo Ball, already one of the best defensive guards in the league. Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards in the league. Brandon Ingram, a very solid, very long defender. Zion Williamson, who, look, I don't know what you're going to get from Zion offensively. Offensively, I'm like, Zion, whatever. Defense, Zion has a chance. Zion, I would be very disappointed, if nothing less, if Zion wasn't on the all-defensive team every single year and was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations every single year. When people say things like an athletic Draymond, people think it's disrespectful. But, like, imagine if Draymond I don't know what Zion's vertical is, but it's probably at least 40 inches. Imagine if Draymond had a 40-inch vertical. Imagine the player he would be. I think that, like, again, like, look, I think that, not saying he's Draymond, but when people say athletic Draymond, again, I get the comparison. I get where they're going for Zion. Like, I think that's a very accurate thing. Like, again, I think that, like, there's no weakness on the floor defensively. And even if you do, for some reason, get past Lonzo and get past Drew and get past Ingram, we got Zion coming to help, blocking, whatever. Like, most of Zion's blocks come off help defense. And we're in this era in which, you know, you want to switch everything. I mean, who can't Zion switch on? He can guard guards. He can guard the center. He's got the size to guard centers. You know, he's got the foot speed and the lateral quickness to stay with most guards. He can contest shots amazingly. Obviously, you know, his vertical is probably like 40 inches, so you have to shoot it high to get it even over his hands and, you know, over his reach. So, yeah, I think the Pelicans have a chance to have literally one of the best defensive teams you've ever seen. Literally that you've ever. I'm dead ass serious about you. I think they have a chance to be that, like, 04 Pistons team on steroids. And I think that Zion has a chance to be like the Ben Wallace type of that team. Like, if you remember, like, Ben Wallace wasn't the biggest guy. He was strong and he had springs, and he could come from anywhere and pretty much block anything. Not saying that, you know, he's gonna be, you know, Ben Wallace, but just what Ben Wallace was for that team. I feel like Ben Wallace was the anchor for that team defensively, like Chauncey might have been the anchor for that team offensively, right? I think Lonzo could be the anchor for the team offensively, as far as, you know, getting rebounds, pushing it up and running, setting the offense, and even setting the tone from the point guard spot defensively. And Zion just has a chance to be, you know, that anchor on the defensive end, whereas, like, he'll block a shot, you'll get in transition, or he'll clean up, you know, any help defense assignments that he'll have. So, again, I think that the Pelicans had an amazing draft. I think even Memphis had a great draft, trading away Conley, but you bring in John Morant, who I think has a chance to be a superstar in this league. And also, I love the acquisition of Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is a very Memphis type pick. I think Memphis also has a chance to be a great defensive team. Looking towards the future. I mean, you pair Brandon Clark down there. Like, Brandon Clark is probably not probably, he was one of the best defenders in the draft, along with the kid from Washington, the guy who I forget his name. Along with Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson, one of the best defenders. The Masayu. I'm pronouncing your name wrong too, bro. I'm sorry, but the Masati Debayu guy from Washington. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he won Defensive Player of the year. But regardless, Brandon Clark is one of the best defenders in the draft. So I like pairing him with Crowder. I like pairing him with Jaren Jackson, Durrell Wright, Avery Bradley, if he's still there, if they keep his team option. So again, I love what Memphis is building. Atlanta had a great day picking up Cam Reddish. Again, I've said many times, I think Cam Reddish went to the wrong school. I think that if Cam Reddish goes, to somewhere where he can take more shots and just assert himself more. I mean, like, you got to remember, he's playing with two guys who's averaging 20 points. So, like, how many shots are there really to go around? And also, you got Trey Jones, who's a point guard. I think the guy Bolden got picked up. He didn't get drafted, but he, got signed after the draft. Realistically, is one basketball, and I think that Cam probably had to sacrifice the most. I think Cam has a chance to be a superstar. I think that, pairing him with Trey, Trey has the advantage of it being really, really hard to double him. Also, they picked up DeAndre Hunter, who, I mean, look, you need somebody to play defense. I think that this is a situation of, like, maybe you can run out at times if you want to go small. You can, run out Trae Young, Horter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and John Collins. I mean, that's a crazy ass lineup. You can play 5 out damn near sometimes if you really want to. I think Hunter has a chance to be a great lone defender. Excuse me for hitting the table. A great lone defender, as well as a chance to. I saw them compare him to Kawhi Leonard. I'm not gonna go that deep, but his shot does look decent. I think he needs to get a quicker release on his shot. He takes a long time to shoot it, but again, I really, really like DeAndre Hunter, and I love the acquisition of Cam Reddish. Like, that's going to be a fun basketball team to watch next year. And again, I think that Cam Reddish arguably has the most potential out of all the Duke boys. Like, when that man hit the Penny Hardaway, I was like, oh, okay. Like there's like a play in which Penny Hardaway does like some move that I ain't seen done since Penny Hardaway did it. And Cam Reddish hit the Penny Hardaway. I'm like, oh, okay. But again, I love Cam's measurables. I think he also has high bust potential, but I think he also has, like, he's like hit or miss. If he hits, he's going to really, really hit. But if he busts, he's going to really bust as well. But I like that acquisition for Atlanta. I think he's going to hit, and it's going to be really, really hard to double Trae Young. I think that Trae Young might end up being in the All-Star game next year, averaging like 20 and 10 next year. Also, I love Portland picking up Nasir Little. I think he slipped a little bit. I understand why, because of his measurables. He really came into college as a power forward, not a small forward. And he, listed as like 6'6". But he does have a 7'1" wingspan. I think his vertical was like 35 or 38 inches, something like that. So he has a size. I think that he's a guy that can maybe replace Aminu. And if you look at, matchups, I think that if, in the future, when they match up against the Warriors, I think that he's a guy who can at least match up against Draymond. I think they have comparable size. His wingspan is probably longer. He might be also more athletic than Draymond, but I think that he's a guy who can frustrate Draymond a little bit. Like, I don't think Draymond has a series that he had in the Western Conference Finals if Nasir Little becomes who he's supposed to become. I also love that Darius Bazley moved to the Thunder. He was a guy who, the first time I saw Darius Bazley play was when him and Romeo Langford matched up, who got picked up by Boston. I love that matchup. I love that pickup for Boston. But Bazley, I think, went to the G League or went overseas, decided to forego college. I think that he has like a lot of work to do, but again, he's a young, athletic body that I think the Thunder need. I think he could be a great defender. They got Terrence Ferguson. They got Diallo. I like the youth and the athleticism of their youth that they have. Also, they might be looking to move Steven Adams. So, I mean, look, I like what they did. I like Keldon Johnson. I also like the Luka Samanic dude that the Spurs picked up. I thought they were gonna pick up Bobo, but the Spurs always have a history with foreign players, and judging off the highlights that I've seen from him. Granted, I'm just highlights. I haven't seen the full game. He looks like he's going to be a player, and I always trust the Spurs when it comes to developing foreign talent. When it comes to Jared Culver, I like Jared Culver. Shout out Jared Culver, but I don't think Minnesota is the best spot for him. I also like Josh Okogie. I mean, if you pick up Jared Culver, I'm assuming that. I mean, look, I think you have like three Jared. I think you have three of them on the roster. Like, I mean, yeah, he can handle the ball a little bit, but I mean, you got Robert Covington, you already got Wiggins, you already got Okogie. Like, I don't really know what was the need of taking Culver, but I mean, hey, I hope it works out for him. I think that if you take Culver, you had to be looking to move Wiggins now. I don't think that it's smart to have literally basically four people on the team playing the same position, that being Culver, Wiggins, Okogie, and Covington. So I would think you're probably looking to move one of them. I also love that Indy had. I love Indy picking up TJ Warren. Also them picking up the Goga Baldiz guy. That's not how you pronounce his name. I know I messed his name up too, but they picked him up at 18th. I think he could be a heck of a player. I think that the picture of everybody going to talk to Zion and him being left alone like that. I saw D Wade and I saw Draymond in the comments like use it as motivation. Personally, I think he will. I think that if you pick him up, also you might be looking to move Sabonis at some point in time. But also I love picking up TJ Warren because you need to replace scoring. I mean, you might not even be able to sign back Bogdanovic. If you do even sign him back, you need that punch coming off the bench now that Tyreke Evans has been kicked out the league. So I love what they did. And lastly, I want to talk about the Nuggets picking up Bobo. I was wrong as hell. I thought Bobo would be a lottery pick. Bobo indeed was not at all a lottery pick. They must have some real concerns about his physical. His medical really must be like god awful. His medical must be terrible. But I will say, Denver's taking some chances. They picked up Michael Porter Jr. They picked up Bobo. I think it was a top 5 prospect in his class when he came out of high school. Like, look, man, if these guys can stay healthy and these guys can become who they were supposed to be coming out of high school, Denver is about to go on a run. Denver is about to have an amazing team for the next decade in the West. I mean, look, you already got Jokic. Millsap is getting older. I would maybe assume that you maybe accept Millsap's team option for this year. You see what's going on with Bobo. I mean, because look, even if he can't start, that pretty much takes away the need for Trey Lyles, or it makes Plumlee. Actually, no, you keep Plumlee, but it takes away the need for Trey Lyles because Bobo has like a crazy shooting touch for a big man. Like it's very rare that you see a 7-footer with the touch that he has. Also, I think he can handle. He can put the ball on the floor. He's 208 right now. I think his dad was like 200 pounds his whole career. So that gives me hope that he can put on, maybe 10 more pounds, 15 more pounds, get up to like 228. Be able to be a little bit more physical. But I think that best case scenario, I mean, like Bobo becomes like a player who's rated like 83 on 2K, and you put that at the 4 with Jokic, and then you have Michael Porter Jr., and then you can have Gary Harris, and you can have Jamal Murray both at the guard spot because, I mean, your length from the 3 to the 5 is insane. I mean, they put their arms out, they covering up half the court. Bobo 7'2", Michael Porter Jr. like 6'10", and then you got Jokic there. You got him at the top of the key making plays. You could play 5 out. So I think that Denver had a great night. Hopefully Bobo can stay healthy and become who he's supposed to become. So yeah, man, all in all, man, like I think this was a great NBA draft. I think actually a lot of teams helped themselves. Oh, also the Lakers. I love the Lakers picking up Talon Horton-Tucker is from the crib. I think that, to me, it looks like they picked up PJ Tucker at shooting guard. I was watching his offensive highlights. He can handle the ball, put the ball on the floor. He can create space. He seems to be a decent shooter. But my thing that I like is his size. He's 6'4". I think he's 235. Probably needs to get in a little bit better shape. and not better shape, but put more muscle on. But I do like his size. So that means that he can probably go in and mix it up rebounding. His vertical, I think, is like 38 inches. He can block shots. He has long. I think his wingspan is 7'1", so he can get into passing lanes. He can steal. I think they replaced everything they lost with Josh Hart and then some. I love that pickup at the 46th pick. He's a guy like, look, again, I think that he compares mostly. I think that he'll be utilized as like if PJ Tucker was a shooting guard with the Lakers. I think that at some point in time, you may even see him start next year on the Lakers. I think he's going to be a hell of a player. Like, I think RJ Barrett is going to be a hell of a player. I think RJ might even win Rookie of the Year. I love his personality. I think that New York media will love him. Think he's dealing with the media already pretty well. I think that he'll get every chance he needs to succeed. I think that the ball will be in his hands a lot from day one. And I think that the college game hurt RJ. And I think that RJ is more fit for the pro game. Like, I would watch him at Duke sometimes. I'd be like, man, bro, it's just not enough space on the court for you. When you get RJ out there and put some shooters out there so you can just give him the ball at the top of the key and just let him drive and create, I think that RJ is a guy that peak RJ could give you like 28, 7, and 7 with like a steal. I think RJ has real superstar potential. So again, man, I think this is a great draft. I think, again, a lot of teams helped themselves. And, I think everybody's talking about it being a 3-player draft, but I think that there's like a lot of depth. There's a lot of potential for all-stars. There's a lot of potential in this draft. And again, I think a lot of teams really, really helped themselves on draft day. And the draft, as far as and just a event to watch, is probably the best draft that I can remember watching. So yeah, Pavi's Daily Hot Takes. Congratulations to all the guys who got drafted. Oh, one last thing. I think the Bulls helped themselves with Kobe White. I think having Kobe White there, Zach LaVine there, Otto there, Laurie there, Wendell there. I think you can play fast pace. You can get up and down the court really, really well. I think that they're gonna have a really fun basketball team next year in Chicago as well. But yeah, congratulations to all the draftees. The work doesn't stop here. Make sure you guys all go into camp, work hard. I can't wait to analyze you guys' game in the pros. Hopefully I get to meet and talk to some of you guys. But yeah, man, congrats. I think this was a great draft class, and I think it just shows that like the talent consistently that we get coming into the league is only going to get better and better and better and better and better as the years go by. And let's turn our heads to the 2020 draft. You got LaMelo. You got I think his name is Anthony Edwards, the supposed number 1 pick. But yeah, man, can't wait till Summer League. Pad Daily Hot Takes.